I was at the mall with my best friend and we were walking to my car when a random driver in a passing car yelled out F. As we turned in shock, we saw the driver and his car go up the median and smashed his front end into the stop sign. So Reddit, what were your instant karma IRL moments? On a way to a party with some friends, another car full of kids flew up behind us leaning out the windows yelling at us and then crossed the double yellow lane on a 2-lane road to pass us. When we came around the next bend they had crashed into a house and were all getting out and running away. Ha 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 ha. You don't often see people crashing into houses. The level of stupidity involved must have been epic. While I was still an undergrad, I was driving from my parents' house and pulled up to a stop sign. 2 middle high school white boys on bikes cross in front of me and start yelling crap and throwing gang signs at me. One of them then proceeds to flip over the front of his bike and faceplants into the sidewalk. I slow down, roll down my window, and laugh as loud as I can at them as I drive away. I'd be careful. I keep hearing how the Crips are recruiting suburban white boys. I was crossing a one-way street in the crosswalk at an intersection with a stoplight. A guy in a SUV comes flying up to the red light and makes a left turn, without stopping, to go the wrong way down the street I am crossing. He nearly hits me and another pedestrian in the crosswalk. We both turned to angrily yell something at him, but a cop happened to be at the light and pulled him over before we got a word out. Guy must have gotten a ticket for wrong way on a one-way street, failing to stop at the light, and hopefully reckless driving for almost hitting 2 pedestrians in a crosswalk. In some places, a reckless driving charge can get your license revoked immediately at the officer's discretion. During a huge snowstorm a couple of years ago, my friend and I lived right by a small hill. A lot of cars couldn't go up the hill, so my friend and I were helping people move to the curb of the street. Now we lived right by a highway exit, and it was rush hour, so there was a lot of backups. Suddenly this douche in this huge Chevy Avalanche pulls by us and yells, "You retards are backing up the highway 4 miles. He tried to speed off but ended up getting stuck and unable to go up the hill. We looked and laughed. We ended up helping him to move to the shoulder as he has this look of embarrassment to his face. GG Hilario uses retard strength to move a Chevy Avalanche to a safe area even after the driver made fun of him. I've got the perfect story for this. When I was at a Major League Baseball game one time, there was a vendor with a horrendous speech impediment. It was so bad that I could barely understand him when he screamed out cold beer. I heard a kid about 2 rows behind me begin to giggle and mock the vendor. I'm not sure if the vendor heard this going on, but he was definitely in earshot. I just ignored the brat's jokes and went back to watching the game. The next batter popped the baseball straight up in the air. When it came down, it nailed the kid right in the knee. This was probably one of the most satisfying moments I've had in my life so far. Later in the game, a batter let go of their bat by accident and it flew into the stands. It ended up hitting some dude right in the chest. I can't even imagine what he did to deserve that one. Making fun of speech impediments is not cool, but some of those vendors get extremely annoying. There was a guy a couple ago at Wrigley Field who you could literally hear from 3 sections over yelling HAWWTTDEGS. I almost lost my hearing that day. My cousin is a D1 NCAA runner at Loyola, and he was out running one day when some douchebag drove up next to him and threw his full hot coffee out his window at him. My cousin caught the cup without any spillage and returned to sender before running down a wooded trail. TLDR. Hot potato coffee. The only thing that could have made it better would have been for him to take a sip before launching it back. I'll try to make this story as uncomplicated as possible. 1. I work at a restaurant, and we often use Groupon to promote. 2. As part of the Groupon rules, only one Groupon may be used per table. 3. People constantly try to break this rule and often try any tactic to try to get us to accept multiple Groupons at once. 4. A group of 5 comes in with 3 Groupons. They asked the hostess if they could use them. She said no. Then they asked me. I said the same thing. 5. They order the cheapest bottle of wine at the table. I go to get it, but unfortunately we didn't have it. I go back, let them know, and one of the customers goes, "Well, since you didn't have the bottle we wanted, you should let us use our Groupons." 6. I think it's a joke, and I give a mild laugh. The guy puts his offended face on and goes, "Oh no, I'm serious. Please bring your manager. 7. My manager comes, listens to the gentleman, and then tells him that he can't accept his Groupon but he can give him a discount on a pitcher of sangria, the next cheapest option for a big table, and a 10% discount on their whole check. 8. I bring the sangria, and they don't like it, they send it back. 9. They decide to order another bottle of wine again, the next cheapest option. I get the bottle to the table, I open the bottle, they taste it. The guy at the head of the table goes Dart, I don't know. Do you guys have this by the glass? 10. Yes sir, we do. 12. I think we'll do that. Just bring us 3 glasses and we'll share it. 13. Throughout the rest of the meal, they were increasingly demanding, rude, and just obnoxiously needy. No request came with a please or a thank you. I'm a professional and I just tough it out, smile it out, and just do my best to get them out as quickly as possible. 14. Time to pay. I bring the check with the 10% already taken off. They ask me about the Groupon. I respond with no problem. Do you have it on paper or on your phone? 15. It's in the phone. 16. As soon as I put it down on the table to redeem it and write all the tables, POFFFF, the phone runs out of battery. 17. As they scramble, curse, and realize that they won't be able to use any of their Groupons. Not a single care in this world could take the look of satisfied W off my face. Oh man, as someone who has labored as waiter, I must say the food industry gods blessed you that day. This lady was in such a hurry to leave the parking lot, she decided to forego the queue and instead hazarded the hilly median. Her car got stuck. Everyone was pointing and laughing. Having her car towed, needless to say, took longer than if she just bloody waited, and she was pictured in the newspaper. That was most British thing I've read all day. I had a woman tailgating me, even though I was going about 5 miles over the speed limit. It is a curvy road with no passing lane. We finally get to a spot with a passing lane and she blows by me, laying on the horn, easily going 20 miles over the speed limit. About 10 miles down the road, she got pulled over by a state trooper. Where she got pulled over, the speed limit went from 55 to 35. Saw the trooper at the gas station later and thanked him. He said she was so rude he wrote the ticket for 40 over, which is a big fine. Most officers here cut you a break and only write it for 5 over, which cuts the fine in half. Almost the same exact thing happened to my family. This guy pulled up beside my mother and flipped her off, calling her a bee. The light turns green, and he accelerates like a bat out of heck, only to get absolutely T-boned. My friend threw his straw wrapper on the ground. 2 seconds later, he drops his whole soda and spills it all over the grass. I like this one because of the matching the punishments to the crime. Someone leaned out of his car to yell F at my bike riding friend. Then his brand new hat blew off and landed almost at my friend's feet. The coward didn't even have the balls to get out of his car to ask for the hat back. My friend kept on riding, with a new hat. Joke's on your friend, dude had lice. Okay, I used to be a M addict, but have been clean for about 7 years. Anyways, I had picked up a guy I kind of knew. He was a M cook. We'll say his name was Chris, because it is, but he went by Fruit Bat. We went back to my house and chilled for a bit, did some dope, and probably took some stuff apart or cleaned something. Well, we got this bright idea to go tweak out at Walmart at 5 in the morning. As we are leaving, I see that he had left his CD case on my couch. I didn't really know him that well, and he had some good music in there, so I could have easily said nothing and gained some new music. However, me being the M addict with a heart of gold, told him he was about to leave his CDs. This is important later. He stuffs it in his backpack and we take off. About a half mile down the road, get pulled over for his dipshit butt not wearing a seatbelt. The cop comes up, asks for my license and registration, and asks me a few questions. He then asks me to step out of the car and asks me what is up with my friend. I asked him what he meant, and he told me the guy was acting very nervous. He asks if he can search the vehicle, and I say yes. Why? Oh why? As we have just polished off the last of the dope we had. Part of the way through searching my car, he comes back and asks if there is anything in Fruit Bat's backpack before he opens it. I told him I didn't know because it wasn't mine. It belonged to the other guy. The officer then tells me Fruit Bat says it wasn't his. It was in my vehicle. Therefore, in my possession. He puts it on his hood and starts basically pulling out part of a lab from the backpack. He puts me, and only me, in handcuffs and continues searching through the bag. He then pulls a CD case out of one of the front pockets, looks at it for a moment, and says, "What was your name again?" I tell him my name. He sets the CD case on the hood and walks off to talk to the other guy. I look down at the case, and on the front it says Chris's Book of Bangs. He cuffs the guy and puts him in his car, uncuffs me while lecturing me on associating with undesirables, and lets me go. Through the entire ordeal, Fruit Bat would not make eye contact with me. He went to prison for intent to manufacture amphetamines. TLDR. Not stealing some guy's CDs kept me from going to prison for intent to manufacture amphetamines. I'm curious of what type of music a man who goes by Fruit Bat listens to. Similar to yours. We had a fire drill at school, and being rather a large school, we took up the entire street outside. Most cars passing by understand that it'll be a few moments, but not one lady. She got so peeved waiting, she screamed at all of us, backed up her car the entire block going about 40 miles an hour and hit a pole. One of her mirrors fell off. We all laughed. Mine is a little similar to Arp's. Back in high school, we were hanging out at the local pizza place after a football game, and some kids from another school showed up and started making trouble. I'm a little hazy on the specifics, but they somehow shattered the glass front door of the restaurant and then fled. Cops were called, and as they were questioning people about the incident, those kids for some reason doubled back, lost control of their car, drove off the road and got the car stuck on top of small boulder in front of the strip mall. The cops very casually strolled over and cuffed him. If I had been those cops, I would have prolonged the agony by walking in slow motion towards the car. This happened just last night. A guy at my poker table refused to take his friend back to Atlanta, about 2 hours away, where his wife and child were being hospitalized after a car wreck. He said he had just paid for a beer that hadn't come yet, and the game was really good. His friend was freaking out. Next hand I flopped the best possible hand, straight to the queen, and he flopped the second best possible hand. I took all of his money, about $320. The table was trying to hold back their laughter. I tossed the guy $5 for the beer and told him to drive safe. My neighbor many years ago was taunting me and my friends during my birthday party. Like, he was being a severe butthole, calling us names, yelling at my mom, etc. Then, my mom called my dad and he came over and ripped him a new butthole. The kid called the cops for harassment from my dad, but it turns out, the cops just got the kid in trouble because they found beer in his car. I work the night shift at McDonald's. One night every night it was really crowded, and there is one moment I will never forget. A girl and her friend pulled up and had just ordered one medium sweet tea with extra ice. These girls were being really bitchy, like the kind of bitchy hot girls are that are too cool for you bitchy, except these girls were on the south side of average, borderline ugly. We're out of medium cups, and rather than run to back to get some more, I decide to just give her a large cup of tea. Well, she takes it without question and they drive off. No thanks or anything, etc. Well, eventually they came back, like an hour later. They pull up, driver girl puts it in park, and the passenger girl who got the tea starts screaming at me how she ordered a medium extra ice, why did I get her a large etc, etc. All this time I'm just thinking, well done, tea drink all then, sheesh. She keeps screaming until it finishes with her saying frick you, then she throws the full sweet tea at me, except she misses. Bad. She was in the passenger seat, and when she threw it, it hit the top of the car door frame and the whole cup exploded inside the car, covering these ugly bee in a wet sticky mess. It gets better. The driver, who hasn't said a word this whole time, shrieks in fury now that she's soaked and floors it, except she didn't take it out park. So they sit there, engine howling for a good 3 seconds before she pushes the stick into drive while she's still flooring it. Ugly clanks and not good sounding noises came from the car, and they jerk out of view as they're screaming at the sudden acceleration out of the drive-through exit, crossing the street and hitting a small ditch that took them 10 minutes to get out of. Once they drove off, I went on break and laughed at them the whole time they tried to get out while eating my meal. Sweet, sweet karma. It's all downhill from here. My brother and I were in the backyard throwing one of those foam 3-pronged boomerangs. It was fairly new and we were learning how to use it. The boomerang had hard plastic edges that whistled or something if you threw it just right. My brother and I played around for a while, and eventually he says something like, "Wow, you suck at throwing this." He turns around to go do something and I throw the boomerang as hard as I can, up and to the right. When it hits its peak, a huge gust of wind takes the thing and launches at 70+ feet across the yard, hitting my brother in the side of the head, hitting his ear and dropping him to the ground crying. Sorry, it was the wind, Mom. I got a 87 on a math test, and I'm Asian, so the classmate that was sitting next to me called me a retard. Bear in mind, he is Asian as well. Teacher hands him back his test, 71, and then tells him to see her after class. I laughed so hard I fell out of my chair. Mine is similar. There's a 2-lane 40 miles per hour road through a commercial area that's particularly dangerous because people regularly speed, quickly change lanes without signaling, etc. One day I had a car full of idiot teens in the other lane who thought it would be funny to match my car's speed, no matter what speed I was going, making it impossible for me to get into that lane at any point. They were making it very obvious that they thought this was hilarious. They eventually made a left turn onto a connecting road and because they were still staring at me, smashed into the sign that was right at the corner. I happily pulled over, waited for the cops, acted as a witness. Bonus, they had stolen that car. This happened to a co-worker the other day. We work at a restaurant, which happens to be a theater as well, and a couple walks out on my fellow server. It's a typical $20 to $30 tab, but they forgot their camera. The server grabbed it and refused to hand it over until they paid their bill. Sweet karma. Also, if you've ever walked out at a restaurant, frick you. An ex of mine was working as a lifeguard at the ocean and was throwing sticks at a seagull. He had his keys on one of those springy bracelet things and when he threw a stick it got stuck in the bracelet and pulled off his keys. He had to jump in the ocean to get his keys back before they sank. The seagull watched from the top of the water slide. I'd like to think it was laughing. Seagulls crap all over my porch at my beach house and steal my bait all the time when I fish. The way karma plays into this is that I shoot them. I have a story where I was the deliverer of the Instant Karma. I was about 16, and I was out for lunch with some friends in the brief window I had between school and practice. Service was a little slow, so I had to eat lunch quickly and run to practice. In the restaurant I had just been eating in, there was a pack of younger kids, maybe 13, who had been causing trouble. They left a couple minutes before I did, so I caught up to them pretty quick because I was running. They had decided to control the entire sidewalk, with no room for anyone to go around them. An old man was coming from the other direction, and not one of them moved. The old man had to walk on a lawn to get past these kids. Then, as he was going, one of the kids silly stringed him. I saw red, and unleashed the mother of all flying elbows on the kid with the silly string, right in the eye socket. The kid dropped, and I just kept on running. Honestly, thinking back on it, I am a little ashamed I resorted to violence so easily, but, goddammit, those kids had it coming. I can only hope they learned a life lesson that day. Life lesson: contain your bullying if there's a bigger bully nearby. I was just starting at the gym a few years back, trying hard to work off the fat that my gamer years had packed onto my frame. I was on the bench doing my workout, low weight, high reps. I think I had about 110 and the bar, and some juice head walks by and scoffs when he sees me sweating my butt off, struggling through my reps. So champ. Bro. So champ. He goes over to his own bench and loads it up with weight. These are the assisted bench machines, not free weights. He pushes out a few reps. I can see him sweating it while I'm drinking some water taking a break. After 3 reps, he can't push it up anymore and the bar falls on his chest and starts crushing him. He's flailing around, kicking his legs ineffectively like a roach that's been flipped on its back. I slowly walk over to him and look him in the eyes. He's got this crazy, dying animal desperation on his face, and the veins are practically exploding out of his neck. I take pity on him and help lift the bar off of him onto the rack. As I'm walking away, I look over my shoulder and say champ. Bro. For the record, he thanked me and apologized. I was over it before he even started speaking. I started going to the gym recently myself and I have been pleased to find the vast majority of people there are really nice and helpful. Every single ginormous buffed dude practically glowed with positivity. Similar story. I was driving home after a midnight shift and being followed too closely by some dong in a book flashing his brights. At the time it was raining and we were on the freeway. He finally laid on his horn and pulled off a ramp going way too fast and slid off the road down a 10-foot embankment into the muddy grass. I honked and waved as I drove past. There were obvious tow truck tracks there the next day. He was just trying to save you from the guy with the knife in your back seat. Here is a good one. It was raining one night and I was merging onto a freeway in my semi, signaling and smoothly switching lanes while keeping half an eye on a car behind me that had been tailgating hard. As soon as he hit the merge ramp that he happened to be following me up, he gunned it in an attempt to pass me, cutting into the no drive zone. The problem being, my cab is 60 feet ahead of him. I'm already legally merging, and 50% of my whole rig already occupies the lane he wants. I guess if you have your head in your butt, it's easy to assume that the truck in front of you consists of nothing more than just the final 10 feet of the trailer. I don't know why, but this dude flips crap. He screeches so hard back into his lane that I can literally feel the road tremble. He's blaring his horn, flashing his lights, and I'm just cruising, calm as frick. I watch traffic in my drive side mirror and when I see a brake, I suspect what's coming. Yep, he jerks into the left lane, floors it, gets beside my cab honking the whole way. He serves at me and then cuts me off. Expected. Here's the delicious surprise. He jerks into place in front of me, jams his brakes and just totally loses control of his vehicle. It is suddenly sideways at 45 miles per hour. I'm nowhere near him, having already slowed. As I watch, his car continues to spin until it's facing me, then it whips back forward while heading straight into the ditch, where it plows earth like a farm tool. In front of all of us there on the freeway. I'm stopped. The left lane has stopped and we're just watching as this guy slowly gets out of his car, which looks pretty damaged, or at least really freaking stuck. I see that other drivers are getting out to render aid, and some are on their phones, so I just gear up out of there nice and calm. Instant Karma. This only reinforces my belief that truck drivers are the most cool-headed, strategic, and patient people you can find. The type of person you'd want to have in your survival bunker during the apocalypse. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.